How's it going, guys? The name's Kevori, and for this video, I'm doing something a bit different from my usual whole life and gaming videos. From the 1st of February all the way to the 15th, I was given the pleasure of traveling to Japan with my two best friends. And I'm gonna come out of the gate and say it. Those were probably the two best weeks of my life so far. It's been a dream of mine to travel to Japan and to be able to actually do it with my two brothers from another mother. Needless to say, I already miss being there. Our trip started where most first trips to Japan start, Narita Airport, in the capital of this beautiful country, Tokyo, Japan. Having flown for about 17 hours and arriving pretty late on the second, we didn't really do much on our first day except take a train to our Airbnb, which unfortunately I have no footage of as I cannot find the Airbnb listing, as well as forgetting to record because I was still in disbelief that I was even in Japan at all. It was a nice and cozy old-fashioned Japanese house with a bit too small of a toilet, but made up for it with a fairly large bathtub made from stone. After organizing our luggage and settling down, we decided to go to an izakaya right across the street for our first taste of Japan's cuisine and drinking culture. The nice lady serving us didn't speak a lick of English, but she was patient with us and even taught us how to order food in Japanese. Maybe it was because it was my first good meal in a couple of days, but the karaage at this place was one of my favorite dishes across the entire trip. It was crispy on the outside while still being so unbelievably juicy. God, I wish I could go back and eat it again. After finishing our meal, we hit the alleys around our Airbnb and had a nice walk, taking in the air of the night. We returned to our Airbnb, laid out our futons, and ended our first night in Japan. We wake up on our second day with a fairly clear-cut plan for the morning, visiting our first of many tourist destinations, the Tokyo Skytree. We took the liberty of making the 15-minute walk from our Airbnb because, as Americans, this was our first time experiencing a walkable city. Honestly, the walk was pretty nice, even if it was a little chilly during our visit. The view from the Skytree was absolutely incredible, even with the cloudy skies. After taking some pictures and passing by the Curious George Cafe, we set our sights on the next big tourist place within walking distance, the Sensoji Temple within Asakusa. This place was absolutely packed, but that didn't stop us from pulling our fortunes. My friend in black, Grant, had done this 2 years ago where he pulled bad fortune. Will his luck finally turn around after 2 years? Hell no. He pulled bad fortune again. My friend in the beanie, Liam, ended up pulling regular fortune, while I, the absolute gamer I am, pulled excellent good fortune.
Excellent good fortune. Come on, man. Let's see it. Let's see it.
Let's get it. Holy.
I believe you high rolled so hard.
I'm just him, I guess. Holy.
You're just him.
After going deeper into the temple and taking in the beauty, we left the crowded area with hunger in our minds. We settled on this shabu shabu place, which was very much a tourist trap, but the food slapped, so who am I to complain? After the meal, we no longer had a concrete plan, so we kept walking and let our feet bring us to whatever our next destination was. We walked along Sumida River, visited some more low-key shrines, and ended our day by visiting the Mokujima Heiken Gardens. I hope I'm saying that right. Which probably would have been a lot better to visit during the spring when the plants are actually in bloom, but this one shot alone made going here worth it. Day 3. Akihabara, baby! Sadly, I kind of forgot to record footage for this day because I was just in the moment, enjoying it to the fullest. It was by far the most fun part of the trip. We ripped some taiko, ate ramen for the first time of the trip, bought a lot of merch, and went to this pirate-themed girls' bar. The bar itself was interesting to say the least, but for me, it was a experience at once kind of deal. My friends had a great time with it though, so who am I to judge? Our third day ended with my two friends getting absolutely hammered on some Shin Megami Tensei whiskey that we found at a large department store. And when I say hammered, these boys were practically wasted when they hit their futons. And because we had so much fun in Akihabara, we decided to run it back day 4. This time with a new addition to our party, Michael, one of Grant's co-workers and fellow victim of the whole life rabbit hole. We met up with him in Ueno where we got some sushi for lunch. And I must say, although sushi would never be a constant meal you have, It is by far one of the best dishes I've had. We didn't go to some fancy restaurant either. Just being in a land with access to fresh, tasty fish just ascends the dish to greater heights. After filling our stomachs with raw fish and eel, we walked off our lunch towards Akihabara once more, where we made more financially irresponsible decisions, but I mean, can you blame a man? Sang some karaoke,
Ex-lovers, they'll tell you I'm insane, 'cause you know I love the players, and you love the game.
and came back to the Pirate Girl bar. Yeah, I know it was a one-time experience for me, but I couldn't say no to the boys. Once again, leaving the bar when the sky was dark, we went to some Chinese skewer place, which was gas by the way, and it would seem as though our 4th day was coming to an end. However, Michael offered to take us to this cool small bar he has stumbled upon in his solo adventures in Japan. And when I say cool, this bar was chill as fuck. They were super welcoming to us foreigners, gave us a ton of free food and drinks, and even though it was a cold night, being there in that atmosphere was enough to warm any man. We heard some crazy stories from this guy who calls himself Jackie Chan. With his ability to speak some conversational English alongside his overwhelming charisma, me and the boys deemed Jackie a certified real one. There was even a young couple that came in and did a live singing performance for the bar.
This is it. Really? Dude, this lady has a really nice voice. Holy shit.
Going to a bar was something I'd never expect in a million years of my introverted life. But this bar was an amazing experience. After Grant was thoroughly wasted for the 2nd night in a row, we took that as our cue to leave. We dapped up Jackie, said our goodbyes to Michael as he decided to stay behind due to his hotel being very close by, took a taxi because we couldn't trust Grant to walk, and it ended our 4th day. With renewed vigor in our shoes, we set our sights on our next tourist destination, Tokyo Station. Day 5 ended up being one of our most productive days with how many places we went to. We started the day a little late, so after our train to the area of Tokyo Station, we had lunch at a chain Japanese curry restaurant. This was my first time eating Japanese curry, and my honest review is that it's good. After our meal, we headed over to Tokyo Station in preparation for our Shinkansen ride over to Kyoto the next day. To my wallet's great displeasure, there just so happened to be an official whole live shop within the station that contained the only fond merch I had seen the entire trip. Needless to say, I lost a couple $100 that day. We then left the station with no plan in mind until we realized that only a few blocks away, there lay another touristy place we could visit, the Imperial Palace. Unfortunately, tours inside the palace are via appointments and at a much earlier time, so all we could do was gaze at its beauty from the outside.
Yeah, this is a pretty good shot.
Before that though, we planned to meet up with Michael again, so we took a small detour to the quaint Watakura Fountain Park to take in the scenery. After reuniting with Michael and basking in the glory of the Imperial Palace, we decided to take a quick visit to a place I'm all too familiar with, yet hadn't stepped foot into it once until that day. Shibuya, the footage of which is unwatchable because of a little oopsie from me. We couldn't really explore Shibuya too much as it was fairly late by the time we got there, but we did check out the 109 store and resident Japanese YouTuber and Mr. Affable Chris Broad's bar. We rounded off the night by visiting the Skytree at nighttime, eating some good yakiniku, went bar hopping again, and then returned to our Airbnb in the dead of night, where the boys got smashed again, and I crashed in bed from exhaustion. I do wish I recorded more of this night, but when you're up at midnight in a whiskey bar, you're bound to forget some things. And so ends our 5th and final day within Tokyo. At least for now. We had to check out of our Airbnb the next day at 11 in order to take the Shinkansen to another major city, which greeted us with snow, to the likes of which a red-blooded Texan like me had not seen in years, Kyoto, Japan. The train ride was quite long and tiring, so we decided after getting to our Airbnb, we familiarized ourselves with the area and took a breather for the day. Although fairly uneventful, this was still an amazing day as for our dinner, we stopped by a local ramen shop that sold us very solid Shio ramen for 500 yen. For the price, that meal felt almost like I was robbing the place. I wish I could get a meal as good as that place for 3 USD. I won't directly say where this ramen shop was, but if you do ever visit Kyoto, this Airbnb was amazing and the shops around here were fantastic. Even though it was way colder in Kyoto than it was in Tokyo, our stomachs were warm and satisfied after the bowl of ramen. We made our routine konbini run and relaxed in our new Airbnb for the night. And oh boy, did I need this relaxation, because on day 7, we decided to visit the very famous shrine of Fushimi Inari. Even for a cold, snowy day, this place was absolutely poppin'. Here is where we found the famous thousands of torii gates, and if you are a regular tourist, you would be seeing nothing but gates as you toured the area. But that day, the boys were feeling adventurous, and we decided to go off the less beaten path for our Fushimi Inari experience. Coming on a snowy day made the trek around the shrines so much prettier and worthwhile, but it also made the trip way more dangerous. There was a point where Liam was feeling a little too adventurous when we set our sights on the top of Inari Mountain, because instead of going a more traditional route, we ended up going on a hiking adventure through a forest of bamboo with a path that I could barely consider a path. Here's me, adrenaline spiked and contemplating my life choices. After leaving the mystery path and returning to the main road, we returned on our climb to the top of the mountain, on the worst path possible. Normally, you can simply walk through the torii gates to the top up a long inclined path, with shrines to take a break in between. The path may be longer, but it's a much more enjoyable experience. We, after our active hike through a snowy forest, took the route that would take the least amount of time, but was nothing except steep stairs. I was not prepared for this much exercise, especially without water. But after reaching the top, we were rewarded with some breathtaking sights, as well as overpriced Pocari Sweat from a vending machine, because god damn it, they know you'll buy one after walking up a mountain unprepared. Feeling victorious and tired, we made the much easier yet still perilous trek down through the slippery steps, this time on the correct path through the torii gates, in order to get our reward of matcha ice cream. And we left at exactly the perfect time, because as soon as we stepped into the train station en route to our next destination, the snow started coming in hard. We hopped on the train stations towards a sake museum, where we learned some history of the sake produced there, as well as partaking in some fine sake taste testing. Afterwards, we had a fairly late lunch at a restaurant that specializes in chicken. I had oyakodon for the first time, and it was pretty good. What? Was I supposed to say something there? The rest of the day was uneventful, with us just walking around the area before returning to our Airbnb. Boys! The plan is simple. First destination was the city of Uji, where we went to enjoy the view, souvenir shopped at the Suen Tea House, ate some conveyor belt sushi, and toured the Tale of Genji Museum. You know, pretty standard touristy stuff. Well, you know what's even more touristy than sushi and museum hopping? Beelining it to Nara Park to feed all the fucking deer. These bastards are everywhere. A park with all the tourists feeding them tasty crackers was one thing, but these guys were just chilling near the forests and shrines. We took a small detour to the Nara National Museum's Buddhist exhibit, then went to some more shrines. Once again though, given our commute back would take a little over an hour, we decided to leave early around 4 to make it in time for dinner. Now, All throughout the trip, it's been nothing short of life-changing traveling around Japan with the boys, and I could keep glazing at how perfect the trip was. However, the trip fell just a tad short of being called the perfect experience. I would relive 99.9% of the trip if I could, but what of the remaining 0.1%? Well, that was tonight's dinner. Koisa's tempura and curry. Can't say me and the boys were the biggest fan of this place. I was by far the most generous of the three of us, since I'm a big fan of tempura, but the curry itself, although visually appealing, tasted alright at best. It didn't help that Liam was allergic to beans and one of the curry sauces just so happened to be bean based. Add on top that it was a little pricier than a typical meal, as well as having a visible tip jar at the place you paid. This place screamed tourist trap. After leaving the restaurant, we inquired Grant on why he took us to this place. His friend and an old acquaintance of mine from high school asked him to scope the place out, all because she saw it on TikTok. And as soon as me and Liam heard that, it all started making sense. God damn TikTok. Now, to be fair to this place, it wasn't bad. Again, the tempura and matcha salt was gas. But does it feel a little pretentious? Maybe. If you are vegan though, I would actually recommend this place, as there is a vegan curry option, in which I would assume is just the bean curry served with the vegetable tempura. Would I myself ever go to this place again though? Nope, never again. Unless it comes out of Japan Eats' monotone voice. I don't trust TikTok food recommendations. But even though the food was less than stellar, it did not deter our positive sentiment of the trip. Into the night we went to end off day 8. We woke up early as this was our last day of our Airbnb in Kyoto. Sad to say goodbye to such a quaint place, but our time in Kyoto was rapidly coming to an end. With the time left, we decided to do some last-minute touring of the nearby areas and cities. In the early morning, we took a mile walk down a trail near the mountains of Misasagi. Nothing riveting happened during the walk, but just being one with nature and taking in the morning air, it's refreshing. And I got to say, I wasn't expecting this shot to look so goddamn good. After all that walking, we were bound to build up an appetite, and so we stepped into this Japanese fast food chain, Nakao, for the first time. Now, contrary to anyone who's eaten actual good food, I do like fast food in America because I'm a fat flock. However, getting good solid Japanese food at a fast food speed and price, pre all the massive inflation in America, is actually godly. It's not absolutely mind-blowing food, but for a cheap and easy meal, it's a goddamn steal. We walked around this little market area where we stopped by the Sunishin knife shop to buy some knives as gifts. They sharpen the knives right in front of you and even have knife sharpening classes. Overall, really cool place if you're looking for Japanese knives, with the market itself being kind of a vibe. Afterwards, we went to a cafe in the area with this name, I'm not pronouncing that, I'm so sorry, where we sat down and each got an absolutely delicious parfait. First time eating a parfait myself, and now I'm a big fan. To round off our first time in Tokyo, we enjoyed the absolute fun activity of bowling at round 1. But after all fun comes the end. Once we leave, it's back to a different kind of fun and a return to the degenerate activities in Tokyo. Kyoto was a great cleansing for the trip, and if we can, we'll definitely return next year. Aboard the train we go to return to where it all began. At least, that was the original plan. Initially, the Airbnb was going to be our place of stay the entire time we were in Kyoto. But when you're on a trip to a foreign country, you want to make the most of your stay. And what better way to do that than to cough up a little bit of extra dough to live it up a little. Now, we aren't rich, so we couldn't go all out. But for one night within Kyoto, we wanted to stay in a ryokan. And that's exactly what we did. We stayed at a ryokan in Arashiyama for $250 a night. Although I had the most fun during the trip in Akihabara, alongside all things we did in the morning and afternoon, this day was by far my favorite because of this one extravagant night. The room itself was insanely nice, with the first bed I've seen all trip and the best bathtub I've seen and experienced in my life. They served us some amazing matcha and mochi as a gift. They had a TV that we used to watch our favorite VTuber, Nemu Nightmare. It was situated by the river, so while you're outside, you'd be greeted with a nice view from anywhere. The onsen, although not open air, was still life-changing in itself. And to wrap up the night, we had our most expensive and delicious meal of the trip at Kijiro. Although we had only been there for a short while, we already regretted not doing more than one night at this place, even with how pricey it was. If you ever do go to Japan, do yourself a favor and stay at a ryokan. It'll prove to be a core memory you'll look back fondly on for the rest of your life. And so begins the last leg of our journey. We hopped on the Shinkansen back to Tokyo, where we stayed at the Amek Hotel in Kabukicho, the entertainment district of Shinjuku, and where the boys indulged in a bit of tomfoolery. Days 10, 11, and 12 kind of all happened in a blur, where we did some notable things, but most of it happened in the moment, so there wasn't much footage of these days. As such, I'll speedrun through the many things we did. As our first meal after the train ride, we had some pretty good 7 out of 10. Then we hit up some karaoke once again to end the night.
It's more than this. I did it my way. Well, now they know. Let it go. Let it go.
The next day, we had some mediocre ramen for lunch, followed by a session of League of Legends at a PC cafe. Yes, even while we're on vacation, like a heroin addict during the withdrawal stage, we came crawling back to this godforsaken game. After having our intake of cancer, it was time for what was probably Grant's most anticipated part of the entire trip, the Muscle Girl Bar. Although I'll never be able to get used to the environment like this, I enjoyed my time there much more than I thought I would. Especially when Grant finally fulfilled his lifelong dream of getting slapped by a hot, muscular woman.
You want this, Grant?
After the drinks and public beating, we went to this place that served unagi dishes. 8 out of 10, would have probably liked it way more if I didn't feel so full from the drinks. I'm pretty sure either that night or the night before, the boys went out and got absolutely smashed until midnight while I stayed at the hotel watching VTubers like a loser. Day 12 was mostly uneventful, other than the absolute torrent of winds that blew that day. Because of how windy it was, I opted to stay back and do our laundry while the boys voyaged through the gusts to visit a stationery store. We ate some Korean food for the dinner that night, pretty good, 7 out of 10. I'm pretty sure the boys weren't drinking that night as well, since they recounted to me having to fight through the cold winds on each other's shoulders, trying not to fall over from the winds as well as their own motor functions. Our days in Shinjuku went by in a blink of an eye, but even though this part of the trip isn't as memorable, it was still some of the most fun I've had. And so comes our last real day in Japan, day 13. We decided that for our last day in Japan, we would return to the route of the tourists and explore the land of Odaiba. To start off our morning, we had some lunch at Suro Tontan in Kabukicho before departing. I ordered some udon with tempura, which was gas. After the food, we took the train to Odaiba. As an artificially made city, Odaiba has this very distinct feeling to it that I liked. It was an urban city that didn't feel overwhelming, since there wasn't as much hustle and bustle as the heart of Tokyo. The sea was visible in a lot of areas, and the air just felt refreshing. The first attraction we visited was the Small Worlds Miniature Museum. All I can say is that everything in there was art. Gundam. How could you call it a trip to Odaiba if you don't at least visit the giant Gundam once while you're there? Statue of Liberty. How could you call it a trip to Odaiba if you don't at least visit the goddamn Statue of Liberty once while you're there? God bless America. The sun was beginning to set, so before we returned to Shinjuku, we visited the Driver City Mall for a bit of window shopping. With the sun no longer in view, we took a train back to Shinjuku with one goal left unfulfilled. Before we went on this trip, we did some brainstorming and playing on the places we wanted to hit while we were there. We had the obvious choices like Akihabara, Nara, and the famous shrines, but we also had some more weird personal choices such as Pirate and Muscle Girl bars. Above all of them though, there's one that was truly bizarre. And no, I'm not talking about the Jojo Ramen shop, even though we all wanted to go. Grant gave us a rather interesting recommendation he had received from one of his co-workers. In my recommendation, I mean peer pressured into going. Rice and Circus, located in Shinjuku, a bar known for its gamey meat and wild alcohol shots. When I say wild, I truly mean batshit insane and borderline unhinged. We didn't have any of the food, but if bear paw, ostrich foot, and a whole ass crow doesn't cause you to raise an eyebrow, I'd be impressed and worried about what kind of diet you had so far. The alcohol shots though, oh boy. Grant, the crazy peer-pressured motherfucker, decided to indulge in the wise words of "fuck it, we ball," and ordered 2 different vile shots. For comparison, I, the non-alcohol drinker, ordered a citron shot because I couldn't leave the boys hang when we comped. Liam, egged on by Grant, ordered a pit viper shot. The night before, he had received a viper shot from a different bar while being incredibly drunk, so, although he didn't recall much of it, he was more willing to try this shot than any of the other weird ones. Grant, on the other hand, who had also received the same viper shot the night prior, ordered a shot with a whole ass dead wasp in it and horse penis. The man drank horse cock liquor. You know what they say, there ain't no cock like horse cock.
Andy's chewing. That's crazy.
After our questionable drinks, we enjoyed our last bowl of ramen before retiring for the night. And so, the end has come. We woke from our slumber to check out of our hotel. With about 6 hours before our flight, we decided the best way to make use of our final time within this wonderful country was to play some motherfucking League of Legends, baby! Woo! And you know what we had as our final meal before our departure? The Golden Arches. I came in fully expecting the Mickey D's to be better than in our states. But my god, there's such a giant gap in how quality JP Macca's was compared to home. Like, I don't get it. Are American palates so fried that we'd be willing to accept the slop we call fast food in our home country? Yes, I am that American. But I take how fresh the McChicken tastes in Japan over whatever we have here. But that was it. Our time of happiness and whimsy was over. We made jokes about how we should just miss our flight and stay longer, but if we had been given the opportunity to do so, we all would have taken it in a heartbeat. Alas, money is not infinite and duty calls. And so, this marks the end of the unforgettable memory and the beginning of a return home.